variable is a characteristic, trait, or attribute of a person or thing that can be classified, manipulated, or measured. It can be attitude, gender, heart rate, and hair color. Please note that variable refers to the condition or characteristic which in a given study may have more than one value. Variables can be either quantitative or qualitative. Quantitative variables are numerical data which include discrete data and continuous data. With discrete data, we focus on the whole unit which cannot be fractionated to divide it into smaller parts, while continuous data can be divided into fractional amount in large or small degrees. Qualitative variables are also called categorical variables. They are classified based upon some characteristics. Independent variable is a variable that is presumed to influence another variable, or the variable that the researcher manipulates. Manipulations can be either actually manipulating a variable such as one group of subjects receive a treatment and the other group does not. In this case, the independent variable treatment has two levels: treatment versus no treatment. The independent variable does not have to have separate groups. For example, if I have one group of individuals that take a pre-test and after a period of time take a post-test, the individual would be tested and would have two levels, pre and post. There could be more than two levels of an independent variable. If I am testing three different age groups of individuals, 5-year-olds, 10-year-olds, and 15-year-olds, the independent variable would be aged with three levels such as 5, 10, and 15. Another name for the independent variable is a factor. A study can have more than one independent variable. All experimental designs have independent variables, while some of the non-experimental designs may or may not have independent variables. Dependent variable is the variable that is expected to change as a result of the manipulation of the independent variable. In general, the measurement or measurements that are taken in the data collection process are the dependent variables. Please note that all studies have at least one dependent variable. Extraneous variable is a variable that could contribute some type of error in a research study. It is the error-producing variable that the researcher should attempt to eliminate or control in the study. Extraneous variable may affect the relationship between the independent variable and the dependent variable if not adequately controlled. Thus, extraneous variables create weaknesses or limitations in a study. Then how to control the extraneous variables in a study. Generally speaking, there are three approaches: excluding the variable, random selection of research participants, and matching cases according to some criteria. We will talk more on this issue in the chapter of experimental research. Well, next I would like to give you some tips regarding how to read research. Below are the tips. Become familiar with a few publications that contain pertinent research in your field. Read only studies that are of interest to you. Read it as a practitioner would. Read the abstract first. Do not be too concerned about statistical significance. Be critical but objective. Lastly, we will cover what will be included in the thesis or dissertation, as some of you will have to work on the thesis later on. Generally speaking, a thesis or research article has a standard format. The format reflects the steps in the scientific method of problem solving. Sometimes theses are done in a chapter format where each Each chapter represents a separate part of the research report. Basically, there are 4 major components: introduction, methods, results, and discussion and conclusions. In the introduction section, the problem is defined and delimited. We also identify the problem, state the research hypothesis. Generally, literature review is the first part of introduction. Method section is the data gathering step. We should first explain how the data are gathered. Specifically, the following should be included. Participants are identified, the measuring instruments are described, the measurement and treatment procedures are presented, the experimental design is explained. The methods of analyzing the data are summarized. We should provide information in detail so that a reader can duplicate it. Results section will present the pertinent findings from the data analysis, and represent the contribution to new knowledge. In the discussion and conclusions section, we can use inductive reasoning in an effort to analyze the findings, to compare these findings with previous studies, to integrate them into a theoretical model. Based on analysis and discussion, conclusions are made.